Once I realized that environmentalism was baked right into Unitarian Universalism, I knew I'd found the right church for me. I'd been looking for religious community for some time, as it turned out, going back to my year after college when I lived in a house with 5 other vegetarians. I learned a lot from them about the world that we share. I think the World Wildlife Fund was the first such charity I supported, which of course led to mailings from lots of other environmental organizations too. I joined the Sierra Club and then attended an event on consumption and sustainability that they were co-sponsoring at the local UU congregation. It was the first time I heard about Unitarian Universalism, but I saw they had a program they called the Earth-Centered Spirituality Circle. So I went to a few of their meetings and did some drumming with them. At the same time, it was thanks to a mail-order science book club that I learned about something called the Epic of Evolution, which is the scientific creation story of the universe and life on Earth. I also learned from that book about the interreligious conversation that was taking seriously our scientific understanding of the world. I decided to attend one of the science and religion conferences, and there I discovered how many UUs are part of that conversation. And the conference chaplain was a UU minister. He led services each morning that were my first experience of UU worship. So after some years at the edges of Unitarian Universalism, I decided to take the next step and go to my local UU congregation on a Sunday morning. I knew I wanted to sing in a choir again, but more than that, I realized I needed help to process everything I was learning from the environmental organizations that were sending me their newsletters and magazines and petitions. I wanted what I knew about the universe and life on Earth to be embraced by religion, not rejected or ignored. And then I wanted that religion to give me strength to face our environmental problems. I discovered that not only did a lot of UUs want that too, but that UU theology gave it to us. And it was succinctly named the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Here was the worldview I sought. Here was the comfort I needed in knowing that I was part of something bigger than myself, part of a cosmic story, no less. And here was a community that understood me and that loved our Mother Earth too. Going to General Assembly of our Unitarian Universalist Association for the first time is, to put it mildly, an overwhelming experience. For one thing, there are more UUs in one place than you've ever seen before. Thousands of UUs filling up a convention center. The morning and evening worship services are incredible and inspiring. And there's simply nothing like that many UUs all singing our hymns together. You don't so much hear it as feel it in your body. And it doesn't go through your brain, but directly to your soul. In the business sessions, you see the democratic process practiced like nowhere else. Motions and amendments and speaking for and against as delegates make the decisions that direct our UU association. Then there's a huge exhibit hall with people selling UU clothing and books and chalices and so much more. That will take you a long time just to work your way through and see everything that's there. And there are so many workshops and lectures and performances and other programs offered each day that you get a major case of FOMO, fear of missing out. Given that it's an overwhelming experience, I don't remember much from my first General Assembly as a new UU. I know it was the year that we elected Bill Sinkford as UUA president, the first person of color chosen to serve in that role. And there was a workshop I attended on something called the Seventh Principle Project, which was formed to help take respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, beyond mere affirmation and promotion, to be an active, integrated part of congregational life in worship services, religious education, church administration, community action, and all other aspects of what it means to be a UU congregation. And when a congregation had completed enough work to certify that it was doing this, then it could call itself a green sanctuary. Now, one of the things I learned about the UUFP back when I was in search for a congregation whose mission I might serve as minister was that you had started to do the work to be certified as a green sanctuary. It was 13 years ago this evening, in fact, that I arrived in Newport News as your candidate to spend 9 days with you and see if we were a good fit for one another. There were lots of meetings and visits and potlucks during that week. And I remember sitting here in this sanctuary in a big circle of chairs with all of the people who were involved in the effort to certify the UUFP as a green sanctuary. It was a lot of people. And I heard about all of the things you were doing in the words that Connie spoke earlier, to integrate reverence, gratitude, and care for the living earth into everything we do. Now, becoming a green sanctuary isn't merely a matter of saying that we're doing this. For the certification, it's a matter of committing to a number of projects across all the aspects of congregational life, and then reporting on the completion of those projects, or at least showing that ongoing projects are suitably established. So you might be wondering why 13 years later, we're still not certified as a green sanctuary. After all, the other things about this that Connie said earlier is that by committing to sustainable lifestyles as individuals and as a faith community, we are a candidate for certification as a green sanctuary congregation. I think there are two reasons. First, it's actually doing the work of integrating reverence, gratitude, and care for the living earth into everything we do that really matters, not getting the paper certificate that merely says we do. Second, I honestly believe that we've been a victim of our own success. We've done so much to include the earth and environmental concerns in services and rituals and classes and workshops and programs, from recycling and reducing our use of paper and replacing light bulbs, to participating in Interfaith Power and Light's preaching on climate change, from growing a sunflower house to holding a green living and congregational sustainability workshop. We've been so busy actually doing the work that filling out the paperwork didn't seem so important. Of course, what it means to be a green sanctuary has also evolved over the last 13 years too. The program is now in its 7th iteration, with a much greater emphasis on environmental justice and a clear focus on climate change. 4 years ago, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report stating in no uncertain terms that we have until 2030 to get carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases under control, or else we're looking at not only continued warming, but also a domino effect of climate changes that would be very bad for us. That's just 7 years from now to avoid irreversible damage to life on Earth and us along with it. The new program is called appropriately Green Sanctuary 2030 and is oriented toward the 3 intersecting goals of mitigation or reducing the causes of global warming, adaptation and resilience, or creating a foundation for a long-term response to the climate crisis, and justice, or working with those on whom the greatest impacts of climate change are disproportionately imposed. Here's the introduction to Green Sanctuary 2030. The climate crisis is the existential threat to the human species and the web of life. It is the urgent, overarching survival and justice issue of our time, calling us to impactful action now. In an era in which the call to dismantle racism could not be more clear, and when the COVID-19 pandemic has stunningly highlighted that systemic racism is inextricably bound to climate degradation and injustice, Unitarian Universalism calls us to bring our individual and collective gifts together to act with bold, inspiring, collaborative, networked, and effective leadership to ensure a livable world for all our descendants and create climate justice with those who are systemically oppressed. I believe that the time is right to engage with this program, and let me give you 3 reasons why I think that. First, in December, we unanimously voted to adopt a congregational covenant that includes a commitment to protect our earth. Following Green Sanctuary 2030 would be a clear and significant follow-through on that commitment. Second, as part of our Justice Committee's reorganization into teams, we now have an Earth Justice team. This is a natural successor to the former Green Sanctuary Committee that can guide our participation in Green Sanctuary 2030. And third, we are a partner faith community with Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, which offers a number of workshops on topics such as creation care, environmental justice, and energy efficiency that can help us better engage with Green Sanctuary 2030. The wisdom story that Connie told us is, of course, an allegory for protecting our Mother Earth by caring for the web of life and for what happens if we don't. Both our UU theology and our UUFP covenant urgently call us to halt the disrepair, heal our environment, and cherish this wonder, now into the 2030s and for generations to come. I'm going to ask you some wondering questions now, and I'll give you a little time after each to reflect. Pam, please put each question on the screen as I read it. I wonder how you have experienced the glorious oneness of all creation. I wonder how you feel part of the interdependent web of all existence. I wonder what you find most amazing about the delicate globe that is our Earth. I wonder what individual commitments to a sustainable lifestyle you have made or could make. I invite you to spend a couple of minutes now meditating on an iconic image of our Earth. Pam, please put the picture up on the screen, and you can leave it up. This is the pale blue dot photograph taken in 1990 by Voyager 1 after the cosmologist Carl Sagan convinced NASA to have the spacecraft look homeward one last time before leaving the solar system. This dot on the screen, just one tiny dot, is the Earth as seen from a distance of more than 4 billion miles. As if suspended in this light, like a tiny piece of dust, is our planet. Consider this view of our home and hear what Sagan had to say about it. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you have ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this single point of light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit, yes. Settle, not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. Words of Carl Sagan. As seen by the very small number of human beings who have traveled into space, the Earth is a mosaic of continents and oceans. By day, there are mountains and deserts, forests and lakes. By night, there are bright beaded networks of light from towns and cities. These are obvious, but except for the clouds floating in it, the thin wrapping of the atmosphere is all but invisible. We know that with every breath, with every heartbeat, we're connected with every other living creature on this planet. And yet most of us breathe so effortlessly, though, that it takes no thought, and so we give it none. It's time to change that lack of thinking. We've changed the sky of our planet, just as we've changed the ground. Change is an inevitable part of life, of course, but it's past time to take responsibility for the changes we make, to give up the harmful myth of dominion over creation and instead embrace with humility our place within the interdependent web. Climate change is a religious issue. Our lives are inextricably linked with those of every other being on Earth through the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. Mystics have recognized for thousands of years that our sense of separateness is an illusion, that the boundary between self and non-self is far from absolute. Our destinies are governed by things too small to see, such as one molecule in a couple of thousand being carbon dioxide rather than nitrogen or oxygen, and by things too large to grasp, such as the planet-spanning ocean currents of salt and heat that allow my family to grow roses at the same latitude as polar bears fish near the Hudson Bay. By things too far away to embrace, such as slabs of ice the size of Rhode Island breaking free from Antarctic ice shelves, and by things too close to home to want to discuss, such as cheap air travel and the availability of summer fruits in winter. Our values and our behaviors, the meanings we find in the world around us, and the meanings we create in our daily lives, all of these call us to be responsible for the consequences of our actions as a species, to be humble in the face of the countless possibilities that nature offers us, and to be hopeful that we can find the right ways to take our place within the tapestry of life. Let's do our part. May it be so.